Men over 45 often struggle with prostate issues, and if you're watching this video, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. The frequent urination at night that disrupts your sleep, waking up 2, 3, sometimes 4 times just to use the bathroom. The weak flow that makes you stand there waiting, hoping things will improve. That constant pressure and discomfort that never quite goes away. That feeling like you need to go even right after you've just been to the bathroom. Sound familiar? You're not alone. Millions of men deal with these symptoms every single day, and most of them have no idea that some of the foods they're eating are making everything worse. But here's something that will probably shock you, something most men don't know, and that most doctors don't even mention during routine checkups. Some of the fruits you eat every single day, the fruits sitting in your kitchen right now, the ones you've been told your whole life are healthy and good for you, might actually be making your prostate bigger and your symptoms worse. Yes, I'm talking about fruits. The foods we were always told to eat more of, the foods that are supposed to keep us healthy and prevent disease. But when it comes to prostate health specifically, not all fruits are created equal, and some of them can actually do more harm than good. In this video, I'm going to reveal the specific fruits you should stop eating, or at least dramatically cut back on, if you want to protect your prostate and start feeling better. I'm going to walk you through exactly why these seemingly healthy foods can be problematic, what's happening in your body when you eat them, and what the science actually says about the connection between certain fruits and prostate inflammation. And I need you to stay with me all the way until the end, because one of these fruits is often called a superfood, something health gurus recommend constantly, yet it can silently make your symptoms worse and even interfere dangerously with common medications that many men over 45 are taking. That information alone could save your health or even your life. And don't worry, I'm not just going to tell you what to avoid. I'll also give you safer, healthier alternatives so you can still enjoy fruit, still get your vitamins and fiber, without harming your prostate or making your symptoms worse. And I'll be completely honest with you, the fruit at the very end of this list shocked even me when I started digging into the scientific research. Most people think it's one of the healthiest things you can eat, but the reality is far more complicated, especially for men dealing with prostate issues. You'll definitely want to hear that one. First, before we dive into the specific fruits, let's talk about the fundamental connection between what you eat and your prostate health, because understanding this mechanism is crucial. The prostate is a small gland, about the size of a walnut in younger men, but it's extremely sensitive to hormones, particularly testosterone, and its more potent form called DHT, or dihydrotestosterone. It's also highly reactive to inflammation in the body. Now, many fruits, even though they're natural and come from the earth, are absolutely packed with natural sugars, mainly fructose and glucose. In younger men in their 20s and 30s, the body has no problem processing these sugars quickly and efficiently. Your metabolism is firing on all cylinders, your insulin sensitivity is high, and your body can handle the sugar load without much issue. But in men over 45, and especially as you get into your 50s, 60s, and beyond, things change dramatically. Your metabolism naturally slows down. Your body becomes less efficient at processing sugar. Your cells become more resistant to insulin, which is the hormone that helps your body use sugar for energy. When you consume excess sugar, even natural sugar from fruit, it can spike your insulin levels. That insulin spike does several harmful things. First, it increases fat storage, particularly around your abdomen, that dangerous visceral fat that wraps around your organs. Second, high insulin levels have been directly linked to increased inflammation throughout the body. And third, there's emerging research showing that chronically elevated insulin can actually stimulate prostate cell growth, contributing to enlargement of the gland. That inflammation we're talking about is absolutely critical to understand because it's at the root of most prostate problems. When inflammation occurs in and around the prostate, the gland swells. As it swells, it starts pressing on the urethra, which is the tube that carries urine out of your bladder. This pressure is what causes that weak flow, that difficulty starting urination, that feeling of incomplete emptying. The inflammation also makes the bladder more sensitive and irritable, which is why you feel the need to go so frequently, especially at night. And in some cases, chronic inflammation in the prostate can even lead to painful urination or discomfort during other activities. So while fruits absolutely have vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber, all of which are beneficial, the wrong choices, particularly fruits that are high in sugar or high in certain acids, can actually backfire when it comes to prostate health. They can fuel the very inflammation and hormonal imbalance that you're trying to avoid. Before we get into the specific fruits, I want to ask you something. What's your favorite fruit snack during the week? Is it a banana with your breakfast? A handful of grapes while you're watching TV? Some dried fruit in your trail mix? Comment it below because I'm really curious which ones most of you are relying on, and I'll tell you whether you should keep eating it or make a switch. Let's start with fruit number 1, and this one might surprise you because it's probably sitting on your kitchen counter right now. Overripe bananas. Bananas are convenient, they're portable, they're sweet, and most people think they're perfectly healthy no matter what. But here's what most men don't realize. When bananas get too ripe, when they start developing those brown spots all over the peel, something significant happens to their sugar content and their effect on your blood sugar. A firm, bright yellow banana has a glycemic index of about 51, which is considered moderate. The glycemic index is a measure of how quickly a food raises your blood sugar after you eat it. But a spotted brown, very ripe banana can have a glycemic index as high as 70 or even higher. That's a massive difference. That means when you eat an overripe banana, you're getting a fast blood sugar spike followed by an equally fast insulin surge. Why does this matter so much for your prostate? Because insulin and prostate growth are closely, intimately linked. Multiple studies have shown that men with insulin resistance, which is when your body cells don't respond well to insulin anymore, are significantly more likely to develop benign prostatic hyperplasia, which is the medical term for an enlarged prostate. One study published in the journal Prostate Cancer and Prostatic Diseases found that men with higher fasting insulin levels had prostates that were, on average, 20% larger than men with normal insulin levels. That's a huge difference. Another study found that men with metabolic syndrome, which includes insulin resistance as a key component, had a 50% higher risk of developing severe urinary symptoms related to prostate enlargement. So every time you eat that overripe banana, you're potentially contributing to the problem. Now, I'm not saying you can never eat a banana again. Here's the tip. If you love bananas, and I get it, they're convenient and tasty, eat them while they're still yellow and firm before those brown spots develop. And always, and I mean always, pair them with some protein, like a tablespoon of peanut butter or a handful of almonds. The protein and fat slow down the absorption of the sugar, preventing that sharp insulin spike. That small change can make a big difference over time. Fruit number 2 that you need to be careful with is grapes. Grapes may be small, they may seem harmless, but they pack a serious sugar punch. Just one handful, about 15 to 20 grapes, contains around 15 grams of sugar. To put that in perspective, that's the same amount of sugar as eating 3 full teaspoons of table sugar. Now, the specific problem with grapes isn't just the amount of sugar, it's the type of sugar. Grape sugar is mostly fructose, and fructose, unlike glucose, is processed differently by your body. Fructose goes straight to your liver, and when your liver is overloaded with fructose, it starts converting that excess into fat, specifically visceral fat, which is the dangerous fat that accumulates around your abdomen and your organs. This visceral fat isn't just sitting there doing nothing. It's metabolically active, meaning it releases inflammatory chemicals called cytokines into your bloodstream. These inflammatory chemicals circulate through your body and can reach your prostate, contributing to swelling and irritation. There's also research showing that high fructose consumption is linked to increased levels of uric acid in the blood, which itself is associated with inflammation and various health problems. Furthermore, that abdominal fat increases estrogen levels in men. Yes, estrogen, the female hormone. As men age, we naturally produce more of an enzyme called aromatase, which converts testosterone into estrogen. The more fat you carry, especially around your middle, the more aromatase you produce, and the more testosterone gets converted to estrogen. This hormonal imbalance, where estrogen levels rise relative to testosterone, has been directly implicated in prostate enlargement. So those innocent-looking grapes are actually contributing to a cascade of metabolic and hormonal problems. Better option? Replace grapes with berries. Blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries. These fruits have far less sugar, significantly more fiber, which slows sugar absorption, and they're absolutely loaded with antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds that actually support prostate health rather than harm it. Fruit number 3 is mangoes, and I know this is going to hurt because mangoes are absolutely delicious, especially in the summer. But here's the brutal truth. Mangoes are sugar bombs. A single average-sized mango can contain over 45 grams of sugar. Let me repeat that. Over 45 grams. That's more sugar than you'd get from drinking a 12-ounce can of soda. In fact, it's about 11 teaspoons of sugar in one fruit. For men dealing with prostate issues, consuming that much sugar in one sitting can trigger a massive inflammatory response in the body. Here's what happens. When you eat that much sugar, your blood glucose levels skyrocket. Your pancreas has to release a huge amount of insulin to try to bring those levels back down. That insulin spike causes inflammation, raises your triglyceride levels, and as we've already discussed, contributes to prostate enlargement. There's also evidence that high sugar intake suppresses your immune system for several hours after consumption, making it harder for your body to fight off infections, including prostatitis, which is inflammation or infection of the prostate. On top of all that, the excess sugar gets stored as fat, and we've already talked about how that fat increases estrogen and inflammation. Now, if you absolutely can't resist mangoes, if they're your favorite fruit and you'd be miserable giving them up completely, here's what you can do. Stick to a few thin slices, maybe a quarter of the fruit at most. Never eat the whole mango in one sitting. And try pairing those slices with a handful of nuts, like almonds or walnuts. The healthy fats and protein in the nuts will slow down the absorption of the sugar and minimize the insulin spike. It's not a perfect solution, but it's harm reduction. You're still getting the taste you love without causing as much damage. Fruit number 4 is pineapple, and this one is problematic for a couple of different reasons. First, pineapple is highly acidic. That acidity, while it might taste refreshing and tangy, can actually irritate both your bladder and your prostate. If you've ever noticed that certain foods or drinks make your urinary symptoms worse, acidity is often the culprit. The lining of your bladder and urethra can become inflamed when exposed to acidic substances, leading to increased urgency, frequency, and sometimes even burning sensations. On top of the acidity issue, pineapple has a high glycemic load, which means it hits your blood sugar hard and fast, similar to the overripe banana we talked about earlier. This causes that same problematic insulin response that contributes to inflammation and prostate enlargement. For men who are already dealing with frequent nighttime urination, eating pineapple, especially in the evening, can make the urge to urinate even worse. You might find yourself waking up even more frequently than usual. There's also an enzyme in pineapple called bromelain which is often marketed as having anti-inflammatory properties. And while bromelain can be beneficial in isolated supplement form, when you're consuming it as part of the whole fruit along with all that sugar and acid, the negative effects often outweigh any potential benefits, especially for prostate health. Safer options? If you want something tropical and refreshing, try papaya in small amounts. Papaya is much less acidic and has less sugar than pineapple. Or go with melon, like cantaloupe or honeydew, which are lower in acid and have a high water content that can help with hydration without overwhelming your bladder. Now, before we move to the next fruit, if you're still watching and you're serious about protecting your health, type prostate crew in the comments right now. I want to see how many of you are really committed to making these changes. It helps me know that this information is reaching the right people, and it motivates me to keep making videos like this that give you the truth instead of just repeating the same generic health advice you hear everywhere else. Fruit number 5 is actually a category, and it's one of the most dangerous for prostate health. Dried fruits. I'm talking about dates, figs, apricots, raisins, dried cranberries, all of them. Dried fruits are the silent enemy when it comes to sugar intake because they've had all their water content removed. When you remove the water, what's left behind is a concentrated source of sugar. To give you an idea of just how concentrated, 1 cup of dates contains almost 100 grams of sugar. That's 25 teaspoons of sugar. Even a small handful of dried figs, just 4 or 5 pieces, can contain 20 to 30 grams of sugar. That's like eating 5 to 7 teaspoons of sugar in a few bites. This concentrated sugar absolutely fuels inflammation throughout your body. It causes rapid spikes in blood glucose and insulin. It promotes weight gain, particularly that dangerous abdominal fat, and it directly worsens prostate swelling and all the urinary symptoms that come with it. Many men eat dried fruits thinking they're making a healthy choice, especially as a snack at work or while traveling. Dried fruits are marketed as natural and wholesome, and technically they are natural, but that doesn't mean they're good for your prostate. Another problem with dried fruits is that many commercially produced versions are coated with added sugars or syrups to make them even sweeter and to prevent clumping. So you're not just getting the concentrated natural sugar from the fruit itself, you're also getting added refined sugar on top of it. And let's not even talk about those dried fruit mixes you find at the grocery store that are loaded with candied fruits swimming in syrup. Those are basically candy disguised as health food. Here's the rule of thumb you need to remember. Always choose fresh or frozen fruit over dried. Fresh fruit has water content that fills you up and slows down how much you can eat in one sitting. Frozen fruit is equally good because it's usually frozen at peak ripeness, preserving the nutrients without adding anything. But never ever reach for the dried, syrupy versions if you care about your prostate health. Fruit number 6 might surprise you because it's often recommended as a healthy, hydrating food, especially in the summer. Watermelon. Now let me be clear. I'm not saying watermelon is evil or that you can never eat it. The problem is eating it in excess, which is very easy to do because it's so light and refreshing. Yes, watermelon hydrates you, and hydration is generally good. But here's what happens when you eat too much of it. Watermelon contains a decent amount of fructose, and when you eat a giant bowl of it, which is easy to do because it doesn't feel heavy in your stomach, you're actually overloading your system with sugar. A large slice of watermelon can easily contain 20 to 25 grams of sugar. And because watermelon has such high water content, eating large amounts, especially at night or in the evening, puts more pressure on your bladder and prostate. Your kidneys have to process all that extra liquid, which means more urine production, which means more trips to the bathroom. For men already struggling with nighttime urination, eating a big bowl of watermelon after dinner is basically asking for a sleepless night. You'll be up every hour needing to go. The solution is moderation and timing. A small slice of watermelon in the afternoon, earlier in the day is perfectly fine. It gives your body time to process the water before bed. But don't sit down with a huge bowl at 8 or 9 p.m. thinking it's just water. It's not. It's water plus sugar, and both of those things are going to wake you up in the middle of the night. Finally, we come to fruit number 7, and this is the one I mentioned at the beginning that even shocked me when I dug into the research. Grapefruit. Grapefruit is constantly promoted as a superfood. It's in every diet plan, every list of foods that boost your immune system or help you lose weight. And it does have some nutritional benefits, no question. But for men over 45, especially men dealing with prostate issues, grapefruit can be genuinely dangerous. Here's why. Grapefruit, and grapefruit juice even more so, contains compounds called furanocoumarins. These compounds block certain enzymes in your liver, specifically enzymes in the CYP450 family, which are responsible for breaking down and metabolizing a huge range of medications. When these enzymes are blocked, medications can build up in your system to dangerous, potentially toxic levels. This isn't theoretical. This is well documented and has resulted in serious health complications and even deaths. Grapefruit interacts dangerously with many medications that men over 45 commonly take. Cholesterol-lowering drugs like statins, grapefruit can increase their levels in your blood, leading to severe muscle damage or even kidney failure. Blood pressure medications, particularly calcium channel blockers, grapefruit can cause them to become too strong, leading to dangerously low blood pressure, dizziness, and fainting. And here's the big one for prostate health. Certain medications used to treat enlarged prostate or urinary symptoms can also interact with grapefruit. Drugs like tamsulosin, which is commonly prescribed for BPH, can have altered effects when combined with grapefruit.